Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I'm your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me is not Mark Morrison. I'm glad to be joined here by the Outer Havens, Scott Adams. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, other than the fact that it's like 90 degrees, but what can you do?
Man, tell me about it. I live in Miami. It will go from
Oh.
pouring rain to 95 degrees in no time. So,
Yay.
uh, but you live on the West Coast, right? So
Yes,
it's
I live on the West Coast. I would say it's very humid here, but it's also probably humid over there. So
yeah.
that's
We
not much
both
of a change.
yeah, feel both that stuff right now. So, Scott has been playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, of course, the big release of perhaps the entire year. We're definitely going to get into that. The other big news is the EU approved the Xbox's Activision-Blizzard deal, so it looks like that is back on again. Uh,
Ish.
we thought it was all gone, and then it is back on again. And then we got some other games we've been playing. We'll talk about those, some other Nintendo news and notes, and some other things, and we'll do all of that right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
And a little bit of trivia there for people. I actually picked that theme because it sounds sort of like a Zelda song. So even though I don't really play that much Zelda games, it's still the whole, like, if you love video games, you gotta know, gotta appreciate Zelda at least. So, but yeah, just to go ahead and get this out of the way, because you never know when there's a person that's been watching the first time or the 100th time. We really do appreciate you for joining us here. Again, thank you, Scott, for being on here with me. And of course, you can go check out all of Scott's stuff at the Outer Haven, which hopefully I will be able to write at pretty soon again, as soon as I don't have to go back to this. I don't have to go to this office anymore. That's really far
Yay.
away. So, but yeah, what matters is the Scott's here. And if you guys are watching live, we appreciate you. You could do that on YouTube at W10 Network. You can do that on Twitch at W10 Network or wherever else we have the show airing. And then, of course, you can watch on demand later on YouTube as well. And then you can also listen on podcasts with your ears. I still like to do that a lot. And, video's great, but sometimes it's easier just to pop a podcast in the car and just go, all right, here, let's turn this on. You can do that. Just search Video Games to the Max wherever there are pods, and you can go subscribe, like, and whatever there. And remember, when you subscribe to the W2 Network on YouTube, you don't just get what I do. You get all the other stuff, which we have a whole slew of people that do entertainment stuff. They just did the review for Guardians 3, which I did watch, so I'll talk about that too. And we'll they have a lot of stuff, anime, MMA, wherever you want. We got a little bit of something there for you. So without further ado, Scott, I guess I'll go ahead and start because it's the topic of the who knows the year. Maybe I listened to y'all do it. Scott, not he does. He's a podcast professional. This man is on the Nintendo Entertainment podcast that they do over at the Outer Haven with Todd and Will. And sometimes you'll have a guest like Faith last week.
Yep.
And you're on the Spec Mode podcast with Keith and the guys as well.
Yep.
So I was listening to y'all do the NEP last week, and then you guys are all hyped for Tears of the Kingdom, talk about the reviews and all that stuff, which y'all are going to do. What have you been able to do so far? And
So I have luckily got the game. That is a good start.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I have been able to play a lot of I finished the tutorial, which is ranging on your estimation of creativity, can range from like a 40-minute playtime to like 5 to 6 hours of tutorial, depending on what you're doing. For me, it's been about 3 hours, and I was when I finished the tutorial, and then by the time I actually got to the Hyrule, I had to do a lot of other stuff. so I haven't had much time to play, but I want to play more. I will say though that I really like the newer systems they brought in, like the reverse, the ascend, being able to attach things with your underarm ability. It's just really fun to be able to just do so much creativity and creation. It's all the stuff that I didn't like of Fortnite, but I love in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people didn't like it in Fortnite to the point where they took it out of Fortnite. There's a mode where you can just zero build.
Better
But thankfully,
mode.
is that it? Was, I mean, yeah, it kind of got a resurgence last year because of that mode. So, I mean, like, yeah, I know you said you didn't get to spend too much time with it, but I guess just when you're doing those bridges, when you're doing sort of the new things, like it made you want to keep doing that. Like it gave you that spawn of creativity. Are you like a big survival game person?
Yes and no. I like doing survival games, but only with people. Like I've played The Forest a bunch, but only because I had friends who play The Forest. I've also played Minecraft a bunch, obviously, because everyone's played Minecraft at least once in their life. And if they haven't, then good job. But I do enjoy like the crafting and trying to like work on inventory as well as managing your space. And it's both sad that like when you're done with the Master Sword, it just kind of leaves your inventory forever. Or what I do is I just keep it as its own space and I just never use it. I will have that decayed Master Sword till the end of the game.
Right.
So I do like some aspects of like survival and stuff. I don't play generally single player ones, so Zelda using a lot more survival elements. I mean, Breath of the Wild had a lot of survival elements with like heat and having the cold and having a lot of just aspects you had to prepare for. But you also
the rain that we all love.
Yeah, the rain is still the worst part of that game. I want to get up there. Well, you have to wait an hour. Oh. Okay.
Well, now you can build something to get up there.
Now I can build a bridge that just cascades up, and I'd like, screw you, rain.
Right.
I don't need to climb. I don't need stamina. I just need a good enough range and a better stilt of an incline so I can just walk it.
Have you gotten to do anything with the Ascend feature or?
Just with the tutorial basically makes you do with the Ascend feature of like doing the Ascend shrine. Though it is kind of sad that it has a bit of a range. I was hoping, like, I know that probably should have a range because I don't think I should just be able to go from the bottom to the very top of mountain with nothing in between. Yeah. But I kind of want to do that.
Yeah, though I didn't really like Breath of the Wild, so I don't know how to like feel about all this. I'm just kind of like, do I want to buy this game and then know like 5 hours in I'm going to get frustrated at the fact that it's still, Breath of the Wild, it still kind of just drops you in and it's like you do whatever, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not good about the you do whatever kind of thing.
Yeah, so the good news of Tears of the Kingdom is that the tutorial island is a lot more linear. It's just after you're done the tutorial, then it just lands you in the middle of Hyrule. It's like, now do things. Save the world. What am I supposed to do? Just save it. Okay.
It's there for the saving.
I saved it the last game, though.
Does anything transfer over from if you have a Breath of the Wild save? Or?
Yes, but only really one thing. You get all the horses you collected in Breath of the Wild now.
Okay, that's
transfer over to Tears of the Kingdom. So if you have a good, like if you had, a fondness of all the horses that you collected in Breath of the Wild, or you're like me, you had 2 horses that you just named and found by accident. I wasn't big into horses in Breath of the Wild, but that's mainly because when I was playing the game, I was mainly focused on not just the combat, but just the exploration kind of feat.
Yeah.
And I like gliding better than I like using horses, so I just find a tall place and then glide over where I wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool that they added that ability, and then like, I've heard with the Ascend feature, like you can pretty much just decide, okay, I want to go from here to there, bam.
Yeah, luckily if like you're like in a like say you're like in the middle of a cave and you see that there's a mountain and there's something above that mountain, you can go into the cave and just use Ascend and it'll just take you to the very top of the mountain. And it's just like, you don't have to actually find ways up to some things.
Yeah.
It's just the things that have like no in-betweens, the range does kill you a bit.
I like that it also provides you a way to solve puzzles easily, which sometimes can be a
Oh,
The
I
crutch.
think the puzzles are so broken now because you don't even need to do the actual solutions to puzzles.
Yeah.
You can just be like, this puzzle lets me do this thing, but what if I just make something that lets me do it anyway?
Right.
Like I've seen so many people just make like giant bridges to cross shrines because they're like, I don't want to deal with the puzzles, so they just make the giant bridge and just walk along the shrine. It's like, now I'm at the end.
I mean, yeah, this is such a like cool thing to see them bring Zelda into this, and we had it with Breath of the Wild, but it's like they took that and just redid it again and added more to it. And I mean, I know you haven't played a ton of it, but do you feel something different with this game as opposed to Breath of the Wild? Or
I do feel like it's a lot more polished in its aspects. I think I do like. I'm in a very mixed state when people call it like it's just a DLC of Breath of the Wild.
yeah,
It's just like kinda, but not really, because the physics engine seems to be a lot more better. It's not as nonsensical as it was in Breath of the Wild, where things just flew in the middle of nowhere with stasis. It's a lot more polished in that aspect. It's a lot more sensical, and it has a lot better physics in the engines that it provides you in the sandbox, which is a great thing because ultimately, as much as people call this like an open world game, I call it more of a sandbox. It's just a giant sandbox. And
it definitely gives you a lot.
It gives you a lot to do, a lot of ways to like do the things that you want to do. And ultimately, I don't find it as like a DLC for Breath of the Wild.
Right.
I do think that it has a lot of similarities in the engine. I just think it's a lot more polished in what it's trying to do. And I think people don't understand necessarily what anything goes into a DLC anymore, because it's like as soon as anything uses the same assets, it's just a DLC.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it uses the same graphical assets, but the programming is completely different underneath it.
Exactly. Like that's the thing, though. People don't understand if you don't use the same assets, you know how much longer it takes for them to make this game, that it already takes them years or whatever to make. So, it's so easy to throw that word out there, but until you actually understand like why they're doing it, it's kind of very, like you said, nonsensical people to just say that. I mean, have you seen what has been going on to all the poor Koroks out there that are just
no
suffering
in the community about that? They knew what they were in for once we finished Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like if you're just listening or watching and you have like no idea. I mean, the Koroks are just they're either getting roasted by people, they're like getting smashed into things that are made to create things.
They attach like freaking wagons to the Koroks, and then they'll just drive the wagons with horses or like the wheels and just like smash them into everything that comes along as they're just on the ground. It's hilarious, but at the same time, it's just like you should feel bad, but at the same time, they are also the same things that made you run around for 800 different seeds, and then go around and go like, well, we've found a thing of poop you can have.
Yeah.
Like,
great. All that time you spent making.
I was expecting like, I don't know, a heart or something.
Right? Yeah. Oh, you mean Nintendo's basically telling you wasted your time? Yes. Oh, thank you.
Nobody enjoyed finding the Korok seeds.
Yeah.
Those things were not enjoyable to find.
Oh man. So I mean, that's good to hear that you're another one of the folks enjoying Tears of the Kingdom. I do respect I think it's the Inverse that had the 6 out of 10 review that everybody keeps.
I think that's fine. I absolutely think that if someone has an opinion and that they have a preference that they want to show,
right,
then that's your point as of a reviewer. A lot of people don't understand this, but you should follow individual reviewers by their names, not by their sites.
Right.
You'll notice that it is a lot more sensical for your own preference when you find a person that you like to look at their reviews. I mean, honestly, that's why so many people go to YouTube nowadays, is because they already know who they're following. They're not like a part of a conglomerate site. And that's like one thing that I do is I like following specific writers for like the Noisy Pixel, following specific writers for a variety of different sites because I like their opinions on games that I've played, and I won't follow other writers for sites because I don't necessarily think they have the same mindset as I do.
No, yeah, I agree with you. It's not only that, that's why you see so many people turn into doing, I got to do video or I got to do my podcast on video because it lets you personalize with them more. And even if it's the writers that you knew from such and such site, it's a different avenue, and you feel like you can get what they're saying more than just, oh, it's a bunch of words and it's part of a site, like you said, and it just has a byline, and you don't necessarily.
They only look at the number, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
this site is apparently terrible because it gave it a 5 out of 10 or something.
Yeah, it's crazy how we just look at numbers and just associate it with the whole everybody at that entire site thought that that's what it was. But I do think it's valid because there are a lot of people like me that wasn't a big fan of Breath of the Wild, so it is good to have that review out there that says, hey, this is kind of what I thought. I didn't really like it that much either. So
yeah, and I don't think I don't think that we should try to force people like 200 hours of a game they don't want to play.
Yeah,
because that's way too much time out of your day for something. Like I would even I remember when Persona 5 was starting to get big, and I of course am a Persona fan, so I love that and started like showering its praises. But there are people who didn't like it because it was a turn-based game, or because it was too much text, or because they didn't like the tropes of like the Japanese writing. And it's just like, that's okay. You don't like Persona games. You don't like Persona 5. That's your preference. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means you don't like it. There's a difference.
Yeah, it may not be for you, but it's okay, you know. So speaking of that, Scott, just to kind of pick your brain here for a little bit about, like, I always like to ask these questions of when we have a first time guest, because it's to me it's always interesting to know, like, what's your background in game. There's people I met that have not always been gamers, right? Like you and I. Like it's you kind of like, oh, I got into gaming because of something in college, like way later. You know, you're way older at that point.
I have actually been a reason someone got into gaming, so I understand.
Hey, that's cool. So like, where does your whole gaming start? What was your first console?
Alrighty, so luckily, I wouldn't say luckily and unluckily, but basically my parents were gamers back in the day. They were big with like Pac-Man and the like arcade games and a lot of those Atari systems back in like the 80s and the 90s. And when I was basically born, they got their very first, like, I guess not really home console, because the Atari already had all their home consoles, but the one that had a good controller, the NES.
Right.
The controllers before the NES, don't try using those things.
No.
You got a keypad, you got a joystick, and you got whatever else is in between there. We got an actual controller on the NES, and my dad started to love it, and so he basically got a bunch of games for it. And one game in particular that my brother and I really loved, not just playing, but also watching my dad play, was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, which was he got the very first one on the NES, which if anyone out there has played the very first one on the NES, it is terrible.
Yeah.
Hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. The water level just die.
There's water levels, there's sewer levels. You have to go from like an overworld to then go to another world, and all your like health comes with you, so you don't get like any big places to recharge. You have to find pizzas all over the place. It's a mess. It was nowhere near as good as the arcade one.
Right. No.
But I do admit, I am really proud that they tried it, because my dad, for whatever reason, was a freaking master at this game. He could do everything and beat it in like no time flat. So when me and my brother tried to play it, because like, oh, if dad can do it, we can do it.
Right.
For like our great egotistical 7 and 9-year-old selves or whatever. And then we realized this game is hard.
It's like, I keep dying. What am I doing wrong here?
We had a system where basically he would play until he died, and then I would take the controller, then play till we died, then he would do it, and we just kept doing that way until we got to like a few of the bosses. I don't remember which one we got like the most hold up on, but after a while we just asked Dad if he could beat the boss for us, and then he did it in like no time flat, and we're just like, how do you do this? But that's where like I can say my beginnings started with me liking video games. Ironically, we moved from the NES to the Sega Genesis, and I don't remember why or how that was. It might have been because my brother or I might have been looking at like the Sonic the Hedgehog and thought that was cool. We actually didn't play a lot of Mario. We played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was basically all our NES was. But the big games that I played on the Sega Genesis, of course, was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. If you were anyone at the Sega Genesis, you had Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Of course.
Why? Because it was bundled with the console.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing, but they're just like, yeah, just put Sonic on everything.
I mean, he's cool. Why would you not? He's your mascot. Yeah.
Yeah. So that and the X-Men games back then were the two big games that I played there. I honestly don't remember that much about the X-Men game, other than I just like playing Nightcrawler.
Hey, yeah, Nightcrawler was. Every time I played I went to Chuck E. Cheese to play the arcade game. I always had to be Nightcrawler. So
Yeah.
I get you there.
It was always nice just being able to teleport to like the other platform rather than trying to do the jumping platform stuff. So that's what I just did. We moved on to a lot of different consoles after the Sega Genesis. After that, we got the N64 because we couldn't afford the Dreamcast. I don't remember if it was expensive or if just because us as kids were dumb and decided the N64 looked cooler at the time.
Right.
I know that adult me felt dumb for kid me because I would have chosen the Dreamcast 100 times over otherwise.
Dreamcast is such a forgotten.
It's such like a hidden gem of a console. It was like one of
Yeah.
the best consoles of its time, and no one liked it.
Yeah, because it was like at that point it's competing with PlayStation 64, and it's like, and then Sega basically if
yeah, the
went
Sega
away
became
after
a
that,
publisher
so, yeah.
instead of a console warrior. That was just ironically because of Nintendo and PlayStation.
Yep, exactly.
And it wasn't. They weren't even fighting Sega. They were fighting each other and just somehow kicked Sega out of the console wars.
Yeah. And Sega's like, well, we can't compete with this. Forget it. They're doing the opposite of Microsoft. They're like, yo, you know what? Ring the bell. That's it.
Yeah. We surrender. We're gonna still keep Sonic though.
Yeah.
But it was like I've had a long history of basically going to various consoles. It wasn't until the Xbox 360 that I actually went to an Xbox console. But I also went to PS3, and then Xbox One is a skip, so I went to the PS4, and then now I have everything because then I'm adult and I have money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it all happen. When you can. If you don't have somebody that can buy it for you, when you're an adult, you just buy the stuff for yourself. That's a positive for sure. But then the problem is when you're an adult, it's like, oh, I got to deal with all this other crap that I also have to buy. That's not as fun as these consoles.
Yes.
So we talked about your consoles. Like, what are your? I mean, I see you have JRPG enthusiast there as your title, so I'd assume that's your favorite genre there.
Yes.
We are alike in that way. So what are some of your favorite games, I guess? And
so my absolute
do you have any other
game,
genres that you like?
Oh, yeah, my absolute favorite game of all time is it's not going to be probably always. If I ever find a game better than it, it's Chrono Trigger.
Right.
Ever since I played that game on the Super Nintendo, I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I had to play at a friend's house. They had Chrono Trigger and a Super Nintendo, and I just came over there and basically stole their TV for like the 2 hours I was there every day or whatever. I did that a lot with some of my friends. I felt like when I look back on my childhood of when I'd go over to friends, I'd always feel bad because I kind of just stole their consoles to play the games I didn't have because I had a different console.
Yeah.
Like I went over to some friend who had a Super Nintendo so I could play the Super Mario World. Then I'd play Chrono Trigger. Then I had another friend who had a Dreamcast back in the day, and we play Sonic Adventure, like ridiculous amounts of Sonic Adventure. But that game was 2-player.
Right.
On the Dreamcast. I don't remember if they brought that over at the GameCube, if you could play Sonic Adventure DX with 2 controllers or not. It wasn't a good 2-player game because Tails was always off the screen. Just made you feel like you were doing something with Tails. You'd see yourself for 3 seconds of game time for a level and be like, I could run forward as Tails. And then Sonic speed by you. But yeah, so most of my favorite games are JRPGs. Chrono Trigger, Persona 5 Royal. I have the Dot Hack series, which is not really a hidden gem anymore. It's kind of like it's one of those games that people look at and are just like, I'm never going to play that game because it's like in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get started. Unless you tried GU Last Recode, but nobody does because they see it as like a sequel to a different game series and it confuses the heck out of them, which I don't blame them, but at the same time, it's anyone listening, just play Last Recode. It's $5 on most platforms now, and it's incredible. And it gives you 4 games worth of content. But 4 games worth of JRPG content is a lot of content.
Yes, you'll be playing that for a while.
That's like 100 hours or more of just you doing a story.
Yeah.
Which was the problem with the dot hack games in general, is that they were trying to basically do a giant confiscated story within like 4 games, which back then wasn't that weird to see, considering the PlayStation 1 that happened before that had all their JRPGs in multiple discs. It's just those usually came with one game. So they're trying to do that, but with multiple games, with multiple kind of time periods where they'd leave.
And every time you add a game, you possibly lose people from game to game. So,
and that kind of addiction, though, for me, loving the dot hack series has pulled me over now to the Trail series. Legend of Heroes Trail series is also in that vein, where you have multiple games worth of a story, and it can get rather complicated really quick.
Yeah, man, I have like, I don't know, I think I have the 3 on PC, I have the Cold Steel, and like, I think I played some of Cold Steel, some of Trails in the Sky, and then like, I look at it and I'm like, when am I going to have the time to play all of these games, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, everybody keeps telling me it's such an amazing series. You need to play it, you know?
It is amazing. Yeah. It's a series that I recommend to all people, but at the same time, it is a very much time killer.
Yeah.
Each game is around 60 hours long, but luckily what they're doing, at least now-ish, is they're putting turbo mode on most of their games so that it's now double the speed, sometimes 4 times the speed in like battles. So a 60-hour experience is now like maybe 30 hours, which is still a lot of time, but it's much more manageable than the original time period.
I mean, RPGs at this point, especially if your game's turn-based, you definitely need to be adding that to your game.
Yeah,
like it's not a well, maybe I should have it. No, it's a you should have it.
You need at least a ×2 speed. I mean, you can do ×4. Sometimes that can be a bit ridiculous, but I think that ×2 is a necessity now for turn-based games. Unless you have a very fast turn-based game, but that's not generally how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, so like, did you read gaming mags growing up, or have something that like you watch gaming related that was like, okay, I gotta get every issue or watch this every week?
So I was a big fan of the PlayStation Magazine and Game Informer back in the day.
Okay,
PlayStation Magazine, because they give you demo discs.
Right.
I love playing demo discs. And it was because of the demo disc that I played the dot hack games for the first time. So it did its job. And Game Informer, just because it gave me a good estimation of like all the games for all the consoles that I wanted to look at or play. I think that at the time it was very cohesive with what like the newer games that were coming out or ones to be looking out for.
Right.
And it didn't always just cover the AAA. Sometimes, though, it didn't give a lot of columns to some of the, not as big games that everyone is looking forward to. But it usually had at least a score for each of the games that it covered. And at the time, as a kid, I loved looking at the scores. I loved seeing like, oh, if it's like a 3, that means it can be good. But I also looked for like the genre and like the explanation. I was actually one of those people that liked reading the review, not just the number.
Right, yeah.
But that's because I was a book nerd as a kid.
I mean, it's like it made you back then want to actually go through the whole magazine and read it cover to cover. So you felt like, oh man, I'm learning about all these games. Like, and yeah, like you said, I mean, I really care about this game, but I know the score for some reason of the review. Like,
yes.
So, yeah, man, I had, I think 1UP growing up, and that was one that I loved getting it every month just to see what they were going to cover and what games they're going to, and then of course Nintendo Power too, because it was great to have they had guides in there as well. So
that's true. Nintendo Power did. Sometimes most of their thing was the guide.
Yeah, that's how I beat Golden Sun. There was a guide in there for it, so I'm like, hey.
I was the kid that literally would have to go to like Cheat CC and find the weird like game facts that they had in like the ASC SCI ridiculous font or whatever they did with that. And I just print the entire thing out because we didn't have good internet, so I couldn't just go straight to the internet. I printed off the entire like 50-page guide that I would just have on hand.
Yeah, you had to. Either that or you had to buy the strategy guide for that game.
Nobody did that. No.
Yeah. So like,
as I have 2 Ocarina of Time strategy guides for the N64. No.
Agree. I have like Final Fantasy guides here in the house somewhere. It's like, that's the thing. People are, you don't know how easy you have it, how nice you have it now. You can just either go to YouTube
Just
or
Google a
go
specific
to whatever
quest, and it's just like,
site.
there it is.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, that has led to a perhaps minimizing some of the things that you and I do now of
Yeah.
writing and video work for, I guess, gaming journalism. I mean, so what made you want to go from just playing and reading about games to writing and talking about games?
So it's an interesting, I guess, case story, but initially I didn't really want to do anything in the game. Well, initially I wanted to be a game programmer in the game industry, and then after learning about the industry of game programming and development, I decided no.
Yeah.
Because for those who don't know, it is a cutthroat, just like ridiculous wage job. It's like you can get paid decently, but you're 40 hours is not even like a minimum. That's like below minimum that you're going to be doing. There's like 50 to 60 hours per week you're doing in game programming and development. And if you're someone, who does get big in the industry, that makes it just like the 40, 50, 60 hours is now like 80 hours a week of you just constantly having to do polishing, do so much stuff. Like it is rough in that industry when it comes to that. And one of the things that I also was looking into was just writing books or novels, because I liked reading, I liked writing, I liked acting.
Right.
I was someone who's very theatrical, but also loved video games on the side, kind of a hobby. And so I was looking up some of the stuff that people were looking for in the industry of just like either books or writing or guides. And I came about actually a Twitter thread of someone looking for a Genshin Impact writer. And at the time, I was basically way too big into Genshin Impact. I literally was like the brain cube of all my friends who were playing it, because like, we can't do this. We can't beat this boss. We can't do this artifact set. And I'd basically go in, try a few things. And there's even like in the beginning of Genshin Impact, there was one quest that nobody could complete. So I just asked them, hand me over your account. I will do it in 1 hour. And I would. And I was just working on basically becoming the best I could be at that game. So when they were looking for Genshin Impact writers, I was like, you know what? I can do this. Yeah. So I talked with the person at the Outer Haven at the time, and I told him like the things that I played, things that I wanted to work on and stuff. And he's just like, instead of a guide writer, you just like become here full time kind of a thing. I was just like, okay.
Right.
So I started doing Genshin Impact guides, and then quickly evolved into press releases, JRPG reviews, as well as turning it into editorials about why JRPGs are the best things ever.
Hey, I mean, at least you picked a good genre to go into about all that.
Except for when you're reviewing 100-hour games, and you're just like, I only have 2 weeks to do this.
Trust me, that's my problem too. I'm sitting here, just finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, and then I'm like, oh crap, I still have to finish Octopath Traveler too. Like,
yeah, I need to start. Jeez.
It's too much. There's too much going on, and then of course
there's so much good games coming out this year, and it's just like it's not stopping.
Yep, it's not. And then we got Final Fantasy 16 on the horizon, so that's not helping us at all either.
No, then we have, well, for me, Trails into Reveries coming out this year.
Oh man.
And that is another accumulate that's going to be a lot of hours of game time. And then Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is coming out this year. There's a few other ones I have on that I'm looking forward to. So it's just like, this year's just packed of games, and I both love and hate it.
There is like a lot of freaking games coming this year for sure. And I guess, just to kind of wrap it up, I mean, is when you look at like the way gaming was when we were growing up, right? And then you look at gaming today, like what is the thing that kind of stands out for you that, this is, I love this about gaming today that we didn't have back then?
So I'd say the biggest thing I love about gaming that we have now is we have a lot more exposure to games that didn't have a lot of exposure back in the day. Games that were kind of just left by the wayside. Games that I didn't even know about, that I'm learning more about from like the past that I liked. Like, even when I'm thinking about it, the Square Enix thing is so kind of crazy to me because I only knew about Squaresoft games at the time. I never knew Enix was even a thing back in the day. So seeing them get like merged together to become Square Enix was just like, what is this company kind of a deal? But that was mainly because more people were focused on going to be the heavy hitters, what was going to sell here in the West. So for like us kids that were looking at the Game Informer magazines or the PlayStation ones, or even like the Nintendo Power ones, we didn't get a lot of Enix titles in there. We didn't get a lot of the JRPG exposure, except for if like you were related to a famous IP or if you were like a famous Western development cycle. And I think that also went into why there were so many Japanese developers not focusing their games on the West because they never got any coverage here. Whereas now we have a lot more coverage of basically every game genre you can think of. But also that comes with the bigger problem of we have so many game development companies now. Like everyone wants a piece of the pie that the game industry is now of trying to get their big game on this thing to make the big $1 billion sales kind of a deal. And it's crazy.
People don't realize how hard it is to make the game, and then like you automatically think, oh, this thing is going to be the next whatever. It's going to be the next Elden Ring, the next big thing that you talk about, and then it's like, oh, it hits the store and like nobody knows about it because it's flooded. The Steam store is flooded with games like literally every day, and
find a new indie game that's released every single day at least.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Like, I always dreamed about, oh man, I want to write for IGN. I want to do something like that. And it's like, oh man, I get to play all these games, review these games. And it's like, oh my God, I could never review all these games now. Like, that's insane. You know, that's crazy.
That's why IGN has such a large amount of writers and reviewers.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they could get like one single person to do all these things.
Yeah.
I mean maybe back in the day it was easier
yeah.
because they only focused on ones they thought would be popular.
Right. Well, no, back in the day, they did try to review almost every game that came out for the systems when you could, because you literally only had like maybe, 200 games come out that whole year or something, not 1,000, 3,000 games or whatever. So it's and you had like your 5 people on each team that could do it, but it's insane now. It's ridiculous. I mean, the people that do it consistently all the time, I give everybody so much credit for that. That's amazing. I don't know how much part of your life you got to take to do that, but it unfortunately, as you get older, it becomes very difficult also.
Yes.
With life getting in the way. But you were talking about Genshin Impact earlier. Just you talking about it, you kind of got me to play Honkai Star Rail, which came out recently. Since you're the big Genshin guy, I mean, what makes Honkai Star Rail special? And if you like Genshin, should you check it out?
It's a difficult premise to say, like, if you like Genshin, you like Honkai Star Rail, because a lot of their things are so different. But at the same time, their like art style, art designs, and art direction is very similar. So Genshin Impact is like open world where you are doing action RPG elements with a lot of element infusing into various battle simulation strategies. Honkai Star Rail is turn-based, but you still are doing basic elements like mixing and matching. You don't get nearly as many combinations, in the sense that, like, hey, if you do this fire and ice together, you'll get a melt reaction like in Genshin. But what you do is you utilize weaknesses and you utilize enemies elements to be able to work on finding ways to beat them out. Just like how, most, well, I wouldn't say most, but most turn-based RPGs that try to have like some kind of nuance or kind of a change to it, it relates with finding weaknesses, finding out enemy strategies, looking at what they can do. And honestly, Honkai Star Rail I love the most is its production and its set designs. Because one thing that Genshin kind of does that I don't like is how they do their conversation cinematography and stuff, where it's just like close up of the face, close up to two people, close up to the face, close up to two people. Whereas with Honkai Star Rail, they're a lot more engaged, dynamic. All their things are there's something going on. You can feel them actually having their characters in places that matter.
Right.
And I know not everyone's going to be like, oh, how dare he focus on things like that, but I love when people have good spatial awareness. Genshin did not have good spatial awareness. Honkai Star Rail does. You know where you're at, you know what things are going on, and you can see like their movements are key, and it makes sense. Like even in one of like the big beginnings, you'll notice one of the characters, Kefka. I think this is probably why so many people like her. Is a lot of her animations is so precise of where the bullets go, how it enters and exit opponents. Like it's just solid, well done art sets, and I really love that about Honkai Star Rail. It's the story itself isn't that, I wouldn't say engaging, but it isn't that kind of linear. A lot of the story you find is through looking through diaries, logs, and other things. Whereas, like the narrative itself is just basically finding what these things called stellarons on each planet and figuring out what that is. And so Honkai Star Rail is a great, I guess, turn-based dive into the art style of what people liked about Genshin, of like the cell-shaded character designs, the more anime-esque, I guess, outfits with a lot of like exotic pieces that come with it. Like one of the things that's interesting is like basically after Genshin Impact got released, you'd find lots of not necessarily clones, but a lot of people utilizing similar color schemes, designs, and outfits of what Genshin Impact was doing. And I feel like that's going to be the same thing here with Honkai Star Rail, because a lot of their like outfits are very unique, stylized, and they show off the character very well.
Yeah, I mean, from what I play, I don't really like playing that many games on my phone. I'm much more of I don't really even like playing games on my PC because I use it so much that like the last thing I want to do is also sit in front of my computer and play a game.
That's what the Steam Deck is for.
Yeah, exactly. It's what the Steam Deck is for. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. It's just so I'm kind of waiting for it to come to PS5, but I did play at least through the prologue part on my phone, and I agree with you on Kefka, and they have a character named March 7th, which you know, it's like, all right, that's a name, cool. But yeah, and then you name your own. You have your own character, whether you pick a female or male character, and that's your sort of your main as well. I like the turn-based finding with the weaknesses and all that. It's I haven't run into the gotcha stuff heavy. I'm sure that will come up.
You'll get there eventually.
Like how bad is that for someone that?
If you're used to Genshin, it is so much better. If you aren't used to Genshin and you don't really like the gotcha mechanics, it is still going to be a bit of a deterrent. It is a gotcha system. Luckily, this one is a lot more forgiving, and it has a lot more resources for you to pile from. So the thing that Genshin did is basically it has a pity system with its event banners where like you do 8 summons. If you don't get the unit you want, then you can do another 8 summons eventually, and then you'll get the 8 summons you want. And every time you do like a multi-summon, it basically adds to the pity. And when you get to a certain reach of this pity, eventually you'll get a guaranteed 5-star. The guaranteed 5-star can either be, and like the first time you hit this pity, it can either be a random 5-star character, or it can be an event 5-star character, which is usually what people want, is the event one. Otherwise, there's no point in summoning on that like banner, so to speak. And so the pity system from that has gone similarly to Star Rail, but it's a lot less of a pity. So you don't have to worry about getting to the 9. You just have to, I think, get to 7 now, which is a lot more forgiving. But at the same time, you get a lot more. You got a lot more. What's the term? You get a lot more opportunities to be able to get tickets for summons. You get a lot more opportunities to get like the actual in-game currency for it. And you get a lot more opportunities for what they do with dailies now.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lot more forgiving in its gotcha element, but it's still gotcha.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't like, let's say with the, I guess, starting team that they give you, you can't just keep progressing through the game with that team. It makes you eventually have to start rolling for the.
there are free-to-play teams and free-to-play artifact sets, so they do give you a lot of other free units that you'll get as you progress in the game. Luckily, when you get further down, you'll get a healer who is an amazing healer.
Yeah.
Who will help everything go by, because you can't rely on March 7th's shield the whole time, unless like you build her ridiculously. Which you can do. There are people who are probably going to have like ridiculous builds with March 7th to just be like, I shield this person to be immortal for 3 turns.
Yeah, you put so much defense, there's no way any of your attacks are going to do something.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I mean, I thought it was I had played Genshin like a little bit, but it kind of turned me off after a while because of that. But having the turn-based mechanics and everything, which I'm more used to with RPGs, I kind of feel like I might keep going with this one a bit more, especially once it hits PS5 at some point.
I'm waiting to do a lot more of my stuff on PS5 just because I play Genshin on the PS5.
Yeah.
Hopefully I still sometimes play on PC if I'm streaming it, but when I want to just like chill or relax, or like say I want to do like a 2-hour quest or event, I don't want to do it on the PC. Or the phone. 2-hour events on the phone is terrible.
No. I definitely don't want to be sitting there hooked to my charger the whole time. Like,
no.
So, any other games that you've been playing here?
So another game that I have been playing is Fairy Fencer F Refrain Chord. It's a game that I never expected to get a sequel.
Yeah.
So Fairy Fencer F was a game from I think 8 years ago from Idea Factory.
God, I feel old.
And Compile Heart, where they were doing they have basically where they have like one part of their studio always doing like Neptunia stuff, which is usually my biggest, which is my biggest like of the Compile Heart games. Then they have another one where they do more like randomize or like test out engines or stuff. Fairy Fencer F was when they were like testing out different engines they wanted to build with, so they were testing out a battle system with it. And Fairy Fencer F Refrain Chord seems like they're testing out more of their battle system for tactical RPG.
Yeah.
Which they actually don't have a lot of games that use tactical RPG elements. So it's interesting to see them like actually work and do it. The only other one that they have in their repertoire that's like this is a spin-off game of Neptunia called Hyper Devotion Noir.
Wow.
But I actually really like their turn-based system. They actually work it well with the music. So basically you have your characters known as fencers, and they work with what's like a spirit of a weapon called a fairy or a fury. And if they combine themselves, the fury becomes their weapon, and they're able to basically fight enemies and other monsters and stuff. The main game basically is that your character Fang doesn't realize he's a fencer, meets up with a fury named Aaron, who has amnesia, because this was during the time period when everybody and their dog had amnesia.
The most common of the JRPG tropes. Everybody.
Luckily, they no longer really do that as much, unless you're East. Then everybody has amnesia for some reason.
Everybody,
especially Adel. Poor Adel.
Like every game, Adel forgot everything. He now has to start over. Like,
they already know that nobody's going to question it, because it's just like, it's happened 10 games already. Just deal with the fact he's going to amnesia in the next one.
You literally went through this entire epic story with, this and that, and then, oh man, I forgot again. Oh.
Yeah, so Fairy Fencer F, Erin has amnesia, and she wants to have Fang help her realize why she has amnesia, what happened. And so your goal is to get a wish from the goddess, which requires you to collect a lot of furies. So you go around collecting all these like fairies, furies, and all these different things to then add to your own repertoire, which you can then equip to your actual like other furies, and then you'll get other fencers along the way that you can equip them to. And it turns into like a collectathon where you can then mix and match various like fairies and furies and dealing with what they add to the table. You can base their build, say that you want this person as strength, this person as something else. It's kind of reminiscent of like the Jin system in Golden Sun.
Okay.
Because you get different like skills, stats, and different like elements you can use when you equip a different fury. And so the way that they have to do is find this goddess. The goddess will then utilize their wish to help restore Aaron's memories. And
Okay.
I can't remember if the first game actually ended with the goddess doing that or if it just ended randomly. But this game starts off in the middle of where the first game was.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Yeah,
not,
I reviewed the first game like way back on.
It was forever ago
PS3,
since I last
so,
played it.
Yeah.
They re-released it as like Advent Force, which I think had it added like Furies and added like story elements.
Yeah.
I actually haven't played the Advent Force, but Refrain Chord has it where you start off with one of the scenes with Fang being imprisoned and he has to find a way out. And Aaron then eventually finds him and they meet up with this person named Floor, or not, well, Floor's not immediately, the person named Glossa. And she apparently is able to utilize the power of music to brainwash people.
Oh, hey.
And so they introduce a mechanic in their tactical RPG system that's called like the idol system, where you have one idol on one side, which is Glossa, and another idol on your side, who's Floor. And they are basically, whenever they do their song in battle, it increases the stats of the characters within the range that can hear their song. And each turn with the idol, you can decide if you want to have the range of that song larger or if you want to have the intensity of the stat boost larger.
Mm.
And the best part about it is it doesn't change the background, it adds to the background soundtrack. So a lot of the music in this game is great. So when you have like a great soundtrack that's going on with like an overview, and then you have the idol singing, the singing will go over the soundtrack. And if you have the enemy idol singing, then their song will then go over the soundtrack. So you have like 3 different sounds going on, but it actually mixes really well.
And when an RPG has great music, that's already a win for me. So
yes.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you're enjoying the game. At least, are you like almost close to beating it, or you're not sure?
I have, I think, like 10 chapters left. I'm almost done with it.
Oh wow!
But
how many chapters does it have in total?
It has, I think, 25. Yeah, it's 25 chapters in total.
Oh gosh!
So I'm on chapter like 15, but it goes as long. Chapters can go really quick or really long depending on if you do the side quests or not. Side quests are just there to help you get, your levels situated so when you do some of the story quests, they're better. Or if you don't want to do any of the side quests, which will make your, Furies be very light and your characters will have a lot less customization options. You can do it if you want to do it like on the easiest difficulty and just go straight to the story.
But is the story good, you feel like, or?
The story is, I'd say it's serviceable.
Yeah.
It's fun. The thing with most Idea Factory games and Compile Heart integrations is they have really fun stories. It's not necessarily the most cohesive or coherent, but a lot of their characters and the way that they do like the just the atmosphere of the world is just fantastic. And so the stories can be really generic at times, but for the most part, because of the characters, the world you're in, or even just like how they deal with how it works by making fun of how generic the story is, it is really good. It helps that like especially like the Neptunia series is a satire that makes fun of the gaming industry itself.
That's why I like playing those games sometimes. Just like, what are they gonna make fun of in the gaming industry now?
Like the sister versus sister one makes so much fun of like the mobile game market spending so much money on like your PC just to play a mobile game. I wonder if they're doing that dig on like Genshin Impact when you see like all these streamers that spent like $4,000 on their streaming builds to just play Genshin Impact all day, and it's just like, good job, you could have got a PS5.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Look at how much money you spent.
It's kind of hilarious that they make fun of that. They also like make fun of how like Sega's no longer in the console wars. They've just been making a bunch of software, which has made like Netgear just really like Netgear is a lot less like focused on hardware, even though that was like her whole shtick is making a good hardware system. But she's been so like, I've done software stuff so long, I can't do hardware nearly as well. It's just hilarious.
Well, I mean, I'm all for like I can't remember the name of it, but I played AmeriQuintet. I played quite a bit of
the
that
Quintet
for a while.
Quintessentials. I love that game. It's great.
So it's very familiar with Compile Heart. They make good games. Just obviously they go under the radar because there's so much other JRPG stuff.
I think one of the reasons they go into the renders because they don't always have the most polish when it comes to their games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
A lot of their games, look like they should still be on the PS3 or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. That's unfortunately, and then of course with everybody being all about whatever FPS you're on at that time, that's definitely gonna make people not want to pay attention.
It's not at 60 FPS. What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. You can't be 30 at all. And, but wait, you'll play Zelda. It's at 30. How dare you? Like,
it's a good game. It's like other games can be good games, but bad FPS.
Exactly.
Just tell me you don't like Redfall without telling me it's just bad FPS.
Exactly. Yeah, you can just not like Redfall. That's okay too. I mean, it can be
okay if you don't like shooting. I mean, it's not that spongy with vampires if you're a sniper, but you don't like shooting spongy vampires, just say it.
Yeah, or just like boneheaded human characters as well.
Yeah.
But anything else you want to mention here?
I would say another, I guess, series that I've generally been trying to focus on and recomplete is the Trails of Cold Steel series. I haven't been playing that as much, but I just finished 2, so I'm at 3 right now.
Okay.
So I only have another 2 games to go, and luckily, if I remember correctly, 3 is actually a shorter one compared to the other 3. Yeah. That's because that's when they focused on the visuals instead of just the mechanics, because they just brought over the mechanics of 1 and 2, just made it look prettier. Which I am fine with. I am fine with just making your game look prettier in the same engine.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that works. Like, you don't need to, redo the wheel when you're making a series. Just make sure that you're making good games and innovate on the story, you know. That being said, I definitely know a lot about that with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeem. I'm going to try to avoid the spoilers here, but I finished it at like 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep on a Friday going into a Saturday. I had been stuck at the final boss for a while because it's it's kind of like Zed, you know, where if you don't either have the right team or you don't pick the right character to control, it can pretty much determine how that goes. And then sometimes you got to get lucky with the chain attacks as well, obviously.
You're saying I can't auto the fight, no?
Yeah, no, definitely not. But man, I love the fact that they just made a DLC that is a compendium of all the games. It's not like Torna where it's all about the just a second game or the Future Connected, which felt kind of like, okay, this basically just exists to give Melia something. Which, I mean, that's fine and all.
Yeah.
But like it's not something that like people were hoping would be the DLC after all that time. This really does feel like a DLC that was worth waiting for, and we actually didn't have to wait as long as we thought we did.
I was surprised how fast they cranked this DLC out.
I was not when somebody told me, dude, there's a trailer for Xenoblade 3's DLC. I was like, what? You got to be kidding me! That wasn't supposed to come out till like the fall. This is nowhere near the fall. What are we talking about?
And then they Monolith Soft to have some help because they're kind of just on like turbo mode.
I mean, but like it's amazing when you think about that studio. They make games, they make big games, and not only did they not delay their game, they moved it up, and it still came out and it ran well. And like you got games that run on the Switch and you're like, how is this new? And Xenoblade is over here running like Xenoblade 2 had its problems obviously because it was a Switch launch game, and that it is they were still trying to figure out how to make that work on the smaller screen and then moving it to the TV. But yeah, like never had a problem with how Xenoblade 3 or the DLC runs. I love the fact that you got to bring Shulk and Rex back and full dad form there. And
he should not look that buff.
Yeah, no, definitely, right? I mean, he's not only a boss with the ladies, he definitely used to go into the gym as well. So
he takes the work.
I think man, I'm just glad that the creator got to make his story that he wanted. He didn't get to do it with Xenogears, didn't get to do it with Xenosaga. He finally got to do it with Xenoblade, and he's definitely giving that to Nintendo. And I'm so happy that like this series has grown, right, as well, like in popularity. the third game was way better than I think anybody thought it was going to be. Like the fact that it got Game of the Year nominations is amazing for a RPG series like that. That's like so freaking. This is just like anime at the end of the day, like it's, but it actually. And the way he's grown in telling the story, right? It's like
a lot of the story beats, especially in 3, were just like top of the charts.
Yeah, like that chapter 5 to chapter 6 is still like thinking about it. Oh man, I was so close to crying because it was like, man,
like
this
one
is
of the
so
best
good.
ways to subvert an expectation for something.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, I mean, like it does leave you with questions. You think that that's it. You definitely do have, but it ties things in a nice, like you do have a cool ending as well that like makes you feel like it was worth it to go through this entire series if you did that. I definitely do think that like you do need to have some appreciation for the other games. This isn't like 3 where you could have played it without having played the other ones.
Yeah,
you definitely do need to have played some of 1 and 2 because they literally go through some of 1 and 2 stuff, and it literally does also like take you back to things as well. So yeah, that was cool. It has its cool moments that I really enjoyed, and I'm happy to get to hear whenever you get to experience that, Scott. Because
hopefully I get time.
Yeah, for sure. Right? There's so much stuff coming out. I think I'm almost at everybody's chat. Well, the people that have chapter 4s for Octopath Traveler 2. Still love the crap out of that game.
Yes.
The stories are way better than the first one.
Yes.
And just I love the characters. The battle system was already great, so they didn't have to really add too much to it. But I do like the latent moves or whatever that they added, which is not really an overdrive, but it's like just kind of like an extra thing that all of them have that you can use. So they did a tremendous job to like improve that game and somehow make it better than the first one. And they said they don't know if 3 is in the cards yet or not, but I really hope so because I'd like to see how they could even do that even better. Somebody shut up at my house here, so my dog is going nuts. I'm sorry if you're hearing that. So my dog is quiet, but then when somebody's at the door, she wants to act like she's a big dog, no joke, but she never barks. But then I just want to bark at stuff randomly. So I think the only other game which I kind of just asked for a code and I didn't expect that they were going to reply within like an hour. It's called Bat Boy. It actually technically has not come out yet. It comes out on the 25th. They don't really have an embargo. It's more of like they don't want people to show video more than audio. But it's like a 8-bit cross between Mega Man and Shovel Knight and maybe some Sonic. So it has like the Shovel Knight like color palette kind of with a lot of Mega Man sort of tropes. With you have your characters are all sports stars at a Japanese school, and they all get taken by this evil warlord or whatever to this world, and you're the baseball player, and what do you have? Your bat. You have your bat, and some of the characters are literally throwing baseballs. It's a pitcher throwing a baseball at you, and you have to hit it back with the bat to kill it. It's and then when you actually get to go through the killing the boss, you get to rescue one of your characters. You get their power. So that's like sort of the Mega Man tie into it. I've only gotten through like the first world or whatever. It's pretty fun. I'm playing on PS5, so I originally wanted to play on Switch, but when somebody gives you a code, I'm not going to complain about whatever console it's on.
No.
So
I will play wherever you have a code.
Exactly. And let's set this on PC. If I can't run it on my PC, then no. But
yeah,
it's I think it's a nice little game. I'll obviously get to play it more, but I've been enjoying it, and I'm normally not like a big Mega Man person, but it's been fun so far. I definitely think people should give it a look at if you're looking for something else besides Tears of the Kingdom and you like those kind of old games.
If you're not playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. I literally everybody's gonna be upset that not me, not this show probably personally, but so many shows. That's going to be their content for like the next month. So get ready, people.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what NEP's next one's going to be
Yeah.
all about.
And by the way y'all were talking on NEP, I was like, oh, all they're going to do for that next episode is the four of them are going to gush about Tears of the Kingdom the whole time. So, yeah, but I'm sure all of you that are playing that game are enjoying the crap out of it. Would be cool to hear what anybody that's watched or listened thought. Leave your thoughts in the comments there. So, just to get into some news here for a little bit, there is some Nintendo stuff to hit here. Nintendo, obviously, the Switch is in its pretty much 7th year at this point. It's incredible that it is still going, but the sales are starting to slow, obviously. And considering inflation, it kind of makes sense. But Nintendo says they're not going to lower Switch prices, and that you shouldn't be expecting a new Switch until at least spring 2024 at the earliest. And of course, Sharp has kind of hinted that they're making LCD displays, and they do mention that they're working on a console, but they don't mention obviously who with, and they did do some assembling work on the Switch. So that goes, I guess my question here. Do you think that, I know we're probably on the cusp of a recession and all that stuff. Do you think that we will at some point get a Switch price cut?
I don't think we're going to switch price cut until probably after the next console gets released. That's just
Really?
how Nintendo generally does it. Unless, I mean, the biggest thing that they'll do for like price cuts is they'll just release like a smaller power console, or in this case, like the Switch Lite. So if you don't want to get an actual Switch or like the Switch OE LED, you can just get a Switch Lite for cheaper. Nintendo's not always the biggest with cutting their prices unless they get like a lot less people buying the thing, which 50% isn't that bad considering how much is still selling.
No, yeah, definitely not, especially with this big game that just came out right now. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot more sales for the system and for the games as well. It does like lead me to wonder, I mean, how long can they really keep this going? I feel like I'm saying that every year. And they find a way.
How long can the Switch keep selling units?
They find a way to keep going. So, and it has to be a Switch 2, right? Like, they can't possibly like reinvent the wheel again.
If they do, I'll be really surprised. Because if my thinking of what most people want right now from Nintendo is just a more powerful type Switch.
Exactly. That's what
we've seen that with the Steam Deck and with other, handhelds being released, is that people are trying to get them because it's basically just like a more powerful Switch. It's not a Switch, but
right. Yeah, you can't play the Nintendo
on a similar par as the Steam Deck. That would be all people would want.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, as long as you can still play on the TV and then you can dock it and undock it and play it that way. I mean, that's all I really want as well. It's a more powerful Switch. Just it's still my primary console. Like, I still play mostly things on my Switch if I can. Obviously there's the, whatever's on Game Pass, which I tried out that Ravenlock game on there because it's on Game Pass, and there's stuff on PS5 like Final Fantasy 16 that I'm definitely gonna buy.
Yep.
But it's just the Switch makes it so nice, like the Vita once did, to play your indie games or play other things that are not graphically powered, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to me that like. I know Nintendo kind of likes to keep people guessing, but it's interesting to me that Miyamoto and everybody would even think about why kill the golden goose at this point. Like, they've always had some kind of portable thing. So even if you do whatever it is that you want to do after this, like, don't you have to keep the Switch going as sort of your like extension of the Game Boy?
Yeah, I really hope that whatever they do decide with either be a new Switch or they do try to do another like actual console, just not a non-portable one, that it is backwards compatible, because there is a humongous amount of software units sold for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, a
There's so
billion.
many people
Yeah.
having that big of a library on it. So if they want to retain a lot of their like user base, it's going to require them to have some kind of backwards compatibility, unless it's something that I guess can also interact with the Switch, and they just want to keep people buying the Switch too. I just don't think that they want to utilize that kind of distribution of production of building both Switch and whatever their new console is going to be.
Right, because then you have the thing that happened with the 3DS, right, where it's like, okay, well, when do we decide to put a game on this thing, and when do we decide to put a game on that?
Yeah.
So, like, that's what was awesome about the Switch. It's like, oh, we finally got what we wanted for all these years of. Now you don't have to worry about, oh man, are they gonna put it on 3DS? Really? Like,
yeah.
So,
luckily, we don't need to have a 3DS now.
Yeah,
and especially now that the eShop's closed on the 3DS. Bless its heart.
Yeah, pour one out for the 3DS eShop. Maybe not so much the Wii U eShop, but
I don't know if people use the Wii U eShop, no, except for like virtual console.
Exactly. I mean, that's another thing too. Like, they have to be thinking about. I know Miyamoto said that he doesn't want to necessarily be limited by the fact that they have to make it work backwards compatibility, but it's like that would be so soul crushing to know that all these games that I have on the system, it's not like they don't work, but it's like I want to carry them forward, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like Xbox and PS and PlayStation's doing it. Like, that's just kind of the way of the world at this point. We all want to just keep our game libraries going on.
We do.
Like, that's the thing would it just be bigger screen, more power, hopefully better battery? I don't know.
I mean, if they are listening to their fans, that probably would be what people would want, is just a better Switch. Because the Switch is such a good console, and obviously it's selling as well as it is because of how good of an idea it is as a console. But if they are going to try to do something new, which is something that Nintendo does have a knack of and a problem of doing, they want to have very innovative consoles that try to redo the markets, kind of a deal. The Wii did it, the Switch will do it, or the Switch did it too. People are actually, using handheld consoles now, not just the weird emulation stations that are being sold from like third-party companies.
Right.
So now it's the question is, if they want to keep going with their innovative thought process, they will probably do something that's different, and it probably won't be backwards compatible with the Switch.
Yeah, probably.
But if they're listening to fans, people will want their Switch libraries. People who have hundreds and hundreds of, maybe even thousands of dollars into the Switch, they want to keep those libraries for the next console.
Yeah, there's some people that have multiple Switches in their house because each one of their kids has one, or family members or whatever. So it's like, man, we don't want to lose that at all. Not that you don't. Again, it's like, yes, you could still play your Switch, but man, like I wanted to pick up the OLED, but I'm like, I'll pick up the OLED, and then that's when they announce the next Switch thing, and it's like, oh man, that's gone. But yeah, I'm worried that they're gonna try to be too crazy, and I really at this point, like, I don't know how you innovate anymore. Like, you already have VR. People doing VR. You already had, and they tried VR. It wasn't great for them.
No.
It's like you already have powerful consoles. I'm not saying you have to stay in your niche, but stay in your niche. I mean, like, why
Nintendo has the weird problem of they have a very, very, very large niche of just casual fans of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Everyone wants the Nintendo.
But it's like, when you already did the Wii, like, how much more casual can you get at that point? Like, it's, you made it to the point where people got tired of playing games like that.
Yeah.
So, it's actually crazy what Nintendo's been able to do, where they had the Wii U and it's basically like, oh, it's just too early of a version of the Switch, and then this comes out. So Switch is doing, not just Switch, but Nintendo itself is doing amazing. Mario's movie smashing records of 1.2 billion, and now it's going to hit video on demand tomorrow, basically. So, like, these now all that's left is to make Anuma happy, right? And make that Zelda movie happen. It's like
Do it.
just to, I guess, stay on that Zelda topic for a second. He does mention Anuma, that basically he's telling Game Informer at this point, probably Kyle Hilliard, because I think he's the one that did the review for them, that Ocarina of Time was cool, Majora's Mask was cool, but that style that they had for the 64 was kind of limiting.
Yes.
Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom allow them to kind of have a lot more freedom. So pretty much he's saying that, look, this formula that we found, this is what we're going to be doing with Zelda for a while. I mean, how do you take that? I mean, like, do you want to have an Ocarina of Time sort of Zelda still? Do you want to have a 2D Zelda, or are you just cool with this Zelda forever? I mean,
so I am mixed, but my favorite Zelda of all time is actually Majora's Mask. I love how tight-knit it is. I love the time system. I know people don't like the 3-day thing, but I absolutely love it and relish in it because it was also big on understanding where everything was in the world, and it made it actually feel so much more alive because it always had something going on in some place at some time. And so I did like how linear and tight-knit it was, and part of me will miss that, having a more tight-knit, linear, kind of story-based Zelda game. It's like Zelda's always been a lot of venture and exploration and escapism.
right.
But Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have basically turned escapism into just full-on immersion with its sandbox open world. But at the same time, it loses a lot of the story elements that the previous Zeldas have had. And yes, I know the Zelda stories are pretty simple generally. Link has to go fight Ganon to save Zelda. It's very by-the-book numbers kind of a deal from the original Legend of Zelda. But they do it so differently in every game that it does make it feel different, and the atmosphere is always so different. Just like you could argue that a lot of the things from Ocarina of Time worked with like Twilight Princess and how they had a linear story approach in that. But the differences of Breath of the Wild and the differences of Twilight Princess was things were darker, and you had Wolf Fox.
Right.
So I am happy that they found a game system and a development system that they enjoy and they like playing with. And I don't want to take that away from them just to constantly gear it towards fans. I do appreciate having developers develop kind of for themselves at some points. And just basically being like, if you like what we like to play, then you'll like this.
Right. I mean, and then we do have a lot of indie games that are doing like the 2D Zelda stuff or Zelda-like games. We've seen a lot of Zelda-like games come out recently. You know, Tunic went to the point of just basically almost being a total homage to
pretty much,
Zelda.
Plus, we had recently one that was Hunt the Night, which was like a horror Bloodborne Zelda-esque game.
Yeah, I mean, you had Death's Door is one that I absolutely loved.
Death's Door was great,
you know, so like they're doing it. It's unfortunately it's like Nintendo's just they're doing this. It doesn't mean that they won't. I mean, they did remake Link to the Past.
Yeah.
So could they remake one of the other games? Sure. I mean,
still waiting for the Wind Waker one.
Yeah, I think I do believe the rumors very much like Metroid Prime, where that game, both of those games, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, are just sitting there and they're just waiting to release those at a moment.
Just waiting for a drought of games and being like, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if there's a direct during the whole Summer Games Fest or whenever the heck they're going to do it, and they announce those for like, I don't know, November or something, or October. And here they are. You know, you can play them now or whatever. It's just, I do hope we do get at least a 2D Zelda because those are the ones that I love the most. But you know, if this is the direction that they're going in or they want to stay in, look, it's making them money. People are look what the whole freaking world is talking about Zelda right now. Like, you know. This is the game they've been anticipating for the entire year. So when you can do this kind of monumental touching of not just the gaming, I was watching Guardians and they showed like 3 commercials for Zelda, and people that were in the theater were like, "Oh wow, wait, that's coming out. I need to go buy that." And then the one I think it's like New Zealand, Australia commercial that's like sad, almost like the dad's just by himself, like just playing, but he's figuring all this stuff
Yeah.
out, and it's cool. Like it's just like that's a moment that you don't really get with. That's always Mario, right?
Yeah.
It's always Zelda. Getting those moments for them has got to be amazing for Nintendo, So we got to think about it like that. Everybody that's like, oh man, I just want my 2D Zelda. Oh, I want Ocarina of Time. Like,
I mean, it's hard to
yeah.
not think too selfishly because it's a game genre or thing that you like or want, but at the same
Right.
time, you're also going to be pushing a lot of the desires of other people out because a lot of people wanted just a better Breath of the Wild as Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted just more exploration, more freedom, more creativity, and Tears of the Kingdom did give that to people in spades.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any people was expecting that most of their time was spent building bridges in Tears of the Kingdom.
Exactly.
Certainly wasn't what my thought process was.
Yeah, why wait until you get to build other stuff and then you're stuck doing that too. So,
You could have built such a big wagon.
yeah. So I mean, I kind of went with that with Final Fantasy 16, because Final Fantasy is my favorite series.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of felt for the people that were like, oh man, I just want the old Final Fantasy back. It's like, guys, I mean, we got to think about not that they don't make money because obviously look at all these other 2D, turn-based games that do. It's just this is what they want to make. At the end of the day, they're the ones making the game, and then also when you got Final Fantasy 14, such a behemoth over there, that they're saying that the whole reason they didn't make a lot of money this quarter or whatever is because they didn't have an expansion for Final Fantasy 14. And then the guy behind that's making this new game. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? So
yeah,
I think we should give the game the benefit of the doubt before we just all of a sudden just cast aspersions against it because we do that too much in the gaming sphere nowadays. It's like, oh, I don't like this thing, so it's terrible already, and it hasn't even come out yet. It's like, come on, guys, play it first.
Yes, it's tough because there's a lot of people that will just hate on games, and I feel like that's like their whole personality sometimes, where they just hate games.
There's too many great games that come out all the time, or at least really good ones, for you to be worrying about hating on things. Like, yeah, just like I don't understand the people that go, "Oh, I'm a gamer," but what do you do? Oh, I just want to be negative half the time. Sorry.
Just want to post another screenshot of very zoomed in 30 FPS.
Yeah, it's like, oh god, look at how terrible this runs. Really, you're just showing me a screenshot of like this one specific thing. Like, thanks, guys. Like
great, that tells me absolutely nothing.
Exactly, it tells me nothing. So that's the thing, though, is Xbox is hoping to remove some of that negative stigma that they have with Redfall and their 30 FPS issues, and they're trying to hopefully get that put on this new thing that they've decided, hopefully thinking that they're going to acquire in Activision-Blizzard. And it did make a good step today and possibly having that happen with the EU passing the deal, basically saying that the CMA was wrong to block the deal because they're overestimating the cloud market by doing what the CMA should have done, which is looking at the exact number of people that actually use xCloud and then looking at how many people just have Game Pass Ultimate. And it's quite funny that both of them just took shots at each other during this thing.
Yes.
But the EU is basically saying that this is not going to harm competition. It's not going to harm Sony. Cloud gaming, we remedied that by basically giving it away for free.
Which was a ridiculous remedy, by the way.
Yeah, right. And the fact that Microsoft went for that too, like, okay, you have a 10-year deal, but for that entire 10 years, you basically have to give it to them. You cannot say no. So that's crazy. The fact that that block by the CMA made them have to just concede to that, to be like, okay, whatever cloud streamer,
the freaking thing. We're done with all.
Yeah, just this thing's not gonna. That's the thing, though, is like I get it. The CMA is trying to future-proof this.
Yeah,
but there's nothing saying that cloud gaming is going to be the next big thing, right? Like,
no. And it's ironic because I don't think VR, which is PlayStation's direction, is also going to be the big new thing either.
Yeah.
They're both trying to estimate what they think will be the big new thing, and I think that's always going to be something that's both problematic, but something that's also worth gearing towards because they want to always be the next big thing.
Right.
But yeah,
Somebody wants to do what Nintendo did and be able to pop the bottle and go, "Oh yeah, everybody's doing it. Now you guys
Yeah.
have to copy us." Like that's the thing is they haven't been able to do that. So I've always believed that Microsoft's idea of what Phil Spencer wants is actually the direction because we keep seeing this where people want to play things wherever it is that they play, right?
Yeah.
He's not wrong in that aspect, but like I for one, me personally, I don't have a horse in this race. I don't care.
No.
I
I want this deal over with.
Yeah, like I'm tired of talking about it. I don't really care about anything that Activision makes except for maybe Crash and Blizzard. Okay, I'll buy Diablo by itself, but the rest of the stuff I don't really care.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's not about the games. Like, okay, if Sony bought Square Enix tomorrow, that would affect me because that's half the games I play come from that company. So, like, I would know that okay, now to be able to play those games, I have to buy whatever Sony's console is or whatever. And I kind of get that from perspective of okay, you're forcing me to have to buy this thing, but that is kind of like sort of how this game works is you need to have exclusives to drive people to that thing that you want. So, and like, where do you sit with this deal? And like, do you think now that Microsoft has a leg up on the FTC and the CMA and be like, okay, what are y'all going to do now?
So I still probably have the same, I guess, mentality that I had last year where I figured that this deal will pass, but it'll be at like the end of June. I do think the CMA was the most unexpected thing for that to happen. I did not see the block happening, especially when they went out and said Sony has no reasoning for why they disagree with what they do with Xbox, because they're right, and so is Xbox. Xbox has no reason to pull Call of Duty from PlayStation because PlayStation makes it so much money. Microsoft, even if they do have like a brand for Xbox, at the end of the day, they're a company that wants profit.
Yeah,
if they get profit from putting on an enemy competitor, yeah, heck yeah. It's just most of the time you look at like the PlayStation fan base, a lot of them don't want Game Pass because of reasons.
Yeah.
Generally because they have this big site of a big one that goes through of ownership. They don't like renting games, which is also why like the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium ones aren't nearly going to have as many subscribers as Game Pass probably will.
Yeah. Even though they have been improving that PlayStation Plus.
They have been improving it like 100%. I am really happy that they're on that wagon because I do agree that Game Pass is a fantastic deal in gaming. It gives you a lot of games. It gives you a lot of things you can play. And so I like having PlayStation try to work that horse, so to speak. And even though they don't get a lot of day ones, which they do get some, but most of them are like the exclusive third-party indie games, which I'm perfectly fine with. A lot of the third-party indie games are great they get.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't get a lot of first-party PlayStation titles that are a year out, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't get the day and date, but it is cool that they like finally brought Ratchet and Clank Rift apart. So now I'm finally gonna play that game.
I've been trying to like save my money to get it, and then it's just like, oh, it's gonna be on extra now. Oh, okay.
Like awesome, yeah, and like I am kind of excited to try Humanity, which you can get tomorrow, day and date. You know, like that game looks cool. Yeah, at least to try it out. You know, whether I don't like it or not, it is what it is.
It's an interesting concept, and I like indie games that kind of push their own creativity to making and like having you think of different ways to play it.
Oh,
because yes, it definitely has like those, I guess, like Lemmings vibes of getting humans to one spot to the other. But I really like the art inception as well as just like the idea that it has with the dog as like the guide for everything.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with an Ansu being your guide at all.
I feel like PlayStation just likes animals. Their first one's Stray, this one's Humanity.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of Tokyo Jungle as well, which I feel like is such an underrated, PlayStation thing. You need to put that on your console, Sony. That game is great. And I mean, I know you liked Meet Your Maker a lot.
Yes.
That was I thought Chia was pretty good as well. Like, so they've actually hit it pretty well with these indies on the first day. But like, I mean, obviously Microsoft's playing nice with them with the Bethesda editions the last 2 months.
Yeah, I absolutely
Yeah.
think this is because of the deal going.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Like,
this isn't because that play nice as much as look, we're giving stuff to PlayStation. We don't care about console wars.
right, yeah. You take Watch Dogs Legion and the Dishonored games.
Take the
and,
entire Bethesda library.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, within the last 2 months, they've taken the whole Bethesda library. And then if you haven't played the Tomb Raider games, which those are all great, the newer ones, they're all going to be on there. And then a PlayStation 5 launch game that I've kind of wanted to play for a long time, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin.
Yes.
That's cool that that's on there finally. So, and then Souls-like and Timesia. So
probably not play that, but it does look nice.
And Rune Factory 4 Special is also
that
one that I've wanted to play. So they have some good stuff on there this time. But going back to even though I think that they're still kind of failing at the classic stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how do you add
the premium tier is not worth it?
Yeah. I don't know why I keep subscribing to that thing. I feel like I need to just dump it down to the extra because every time
I keep thinking that they're going to add something. It's just like I haven't seen anything worthwhile until like Legend of Dragoon.
Exactly. That's the whole reason.
And the rest of the games is just like, okay, Toy Story.
And like I thought PS4 games were supposed to be part of extra automatically. So
it should.
Why are they now
PS3 remasters for whatever reason?
I don't get their thinking here. It doesn't make any sense. At least Xbox makes more sense when they just tell you, okay, here are the games. This is like the new stuff, whatever. We don't try to hide it behind a bunch of tiers. Like,
yeah,
it is the
that
one
is something
thing
that PlayStation needs to do better with is not just, I guess, the transparency, but also focusing on laying them out better because for the most part, they only show the extra list now. You have to like find everything else.
They really ought to just do away with the premium thing. And
I mean, if they're not going to put that much effort into premium, why even try? I know that there is a decent amount of people who want to play more like PlayStation 2 games.
Yeah.
But that requires them to actually, put the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games on the premium tier.
Exactly. Even the PS3 ones, even though they're stream only.
The stream-only ones are okay-ish. I mean, yes, you don't want to play like God of War through stream, but being the JRPG guy that I am absolutely fine with cloud gaming.
Oh, exactly.
Games.
Yeah, you don't feel it that much with those. I mean, that brings up a good point that's the whole thing with the CMA made no sense because like Xbox and PlayStation right now are hiding that behind their subscription service because it doesn't sell by itself.
No.
So like I don't know where they think their internet infrastructure is going to go in like 5 or 10 years, but it's definitely not going to get to the point where we're all going to be cloud gaming.
Yeah, it's this whole CMA thing is so wonky because the way that they did their like discrepancies are in ways that Microsoft can't really amend because it's just like, well, yes, you're giving this to this cloud company and this cloud company, but this cloud company is hosted by your Azure server, so it's still technically under you, and it's just like 90% of like most businesses are going to be under Microsoft Windows. So that logic means that you can't do anything with anything.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be forced to have to use Apple or Linux because Microsoft owns Windows. I mean,
it's such a crazy thing. That's like their big discrepancy. It's like, yes, you could argue that Microsoft can control the cloud gaming thing, but the problem is there isn't really a cloud gaming market. Sure, we have like GeoForce and we have Luna at the time, but most other cloud companies are like very small and very niche. Like Boosteroid apparently has a cloud gaming service, and I've never heard of that really.
Is half those ones that Microsoft made deals with, I was like, what?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? Like, okay, I'm learning about you now, I guess. That's
like,
cool.
I know that there's a lot of those trying to get into the cloud gaming service, but it is a tough service to get into because there's not a lot of demand.
And then also, like, who's going to sign an exclusive deal with you that you're going to want to get that service to play that game? Like, okay, Amazon can pull it off for Luna because they're Amazon, but like,
I mean, they have an immense amount of just capital they can have. But that's not going to be every small little cloud.
Exactly. So that's why this whole deal with Microsoft being able to give things for free to them to give them some games that are going to be on their service. That's cool. I just think that it's like the CMA is very short-sighted in this, and it feels more like, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but it really does feel like sometimes like they promised Jim Ryan that they were going to do something, so they're doing it. Yeah.
The irony thing is everyone wants to blame PlayStation, but I'm
Yeah.
going to put in another thing to you. It's Google's fault.
Oh yeah.
Google
Definitely.
makes up like more than 90% of the mobile gaming market
Yep.
in the UK. So a lot of the Google thing, especially despite of Google Stadia not working out.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it wasn't that bad of a cloud gaming service. It probably was the best in terms of latency and input when it comes to the cloud gaming services. So that is sad. And it was also the only one that had the Trail series on it, by the way.
Right.
Xbox can't do that because they don't have a Japanese market.
Yeah. Sadly.
I want them to get a Japanese market so that I can buy the Trails games a fourth time, okay?
Yes.
That's so hard to ask.
Are they going to be able to put them all on there? Because, the first two are like owned by another whole publisher.
Yes,
so
Exceed. I just want Exceed and NIS America to work something out so that we can get Trails in the Sky everywhere other than Steam.
I agree. I would love to have those on Switch. I'd actually play them, but
Falcom put it on Switch in Japan, but the whole licensing thing, they can't do it here.
Yeah, it's
that's a problem.
Yep, exactly. That's the thing for me is that at least now they seem to have a way forward. We'll have to see what the FTC is able to do with this lawsuit that they have on them. Obviously, it's American court, and Microsoft is an American company, so I'm sure they will be able to figure out a way around this. It also doesn't help that this is now being politicized, and it's becoming a Republican and Democrat thing. And so Linda Khan is going to have her hands full with that. I don't know what's going to wind up happening. They might have to wind up letting it go through because of you don't want to start a whole big another issue that you're going to have. So it might be the fact that Microsoft might have to threaten the CMA with, we're literally going to make it to where there's going to be nothing that involves us in the UK, and you're going to just be sitting there on an island by yourself.
The only thing that I could see of that is it wouldn't be everything with Microsoft and Activision. Is they'd probably just remove the cloud itself from the UK, which is really bad for those who are in the UK and using the xCloud right now.
Exactly.
But again, there's not a large market for the xCloud, so there's
their internet's even worse than here. Yeah,
but it's okay because Yakuza 7 plays great on xCloud.
Exactly. That's the one that, and hopefully Yakuza 8 will play
hopefully
just good too. So I mean, obviously that's still gonna be a thing that's gonna be talked about until that closes. As I've said every time, I have to mention that this thing on this show, which I'm so tired of talking about.
One day we will just be able to say thank you for whatever the problem is. If it gets blocked or if it goes through, just thank you for letting us be done.
Yes. No, but then the problem is if it doesn't go through, the next thing will be everybody talking about what's the next thing Microsoft's going to buy.
I don't know if Microsoft's going to let Phil do that after having such a large, egregious process.
Yeah. I mean,
how easy it was with Bethesda. And that was when Phil Spencer was basically given the green light to buy whoever he wanted.
Right.
Like, this is an easy merger. We're so much so used to the Google crap, but okay. Bethesda was like, swipe.
Is that, and that's the thing, you just bought the biggest one. So where do we go about buying the ones that are technically smaller and it's technically not the whole industry or whatever, but that's going to be interesting about where they go with that, what they do if or if not. I mean, it'll be much worse if it doesn't go through.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of hoping it goes through just to
be done with it.
not to be just be done with it, but just I want to see Sony have to make some moves besides just money hatting everything. I want to see them make some moves, that have to. Are you gonna make your own shooter franchise now and try to do something with that?
We may have an actual COD killer that's not Fortnite.
Right. I mean, is that gonna be Bungie doing it? I don't know, but that's the thing is I think it makes it more interesting when you have the 3 players instead of just the 2 Japanese companies, and just you have Microsoft wanting to do kind of their own thing.
Yeah.
So I want to see where that goes, where it takes gaming, as far as
Plus, hopefully, it'll actually might force Phil to actually not put everything hands off with Activision because he won't be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he did say they were going to report to him. Who knows what's gonna?
Because if he's hands off with Activision, I don't think they want that company.
No, yeah, definitely not. You got to be hands on with them. Even though I hope Bobby Kozak's going to be out the door.
Yes.
Pretty quickly after that, we'll see what happens there. But of course, let's not kid around. That dude, he just wants his money. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. He just wants his parachute and go.
Exactly. He wants his money to get out of there. But I mean, as we talked about with the Switch, you mentioned the Steam Deck, and Microsoft is obviously benefiting from this because it allows cloud gaming to be in all of these portable gaming devices that are seemingly rising up after the Steam Deck came out. One of them is, in fact, the Asus ROG Ally, Republic of Gamers. For you guys that don't know, that's in fact the laptop that I'm using right now is an Asus. So that's the thing is this Ally is supposed to be the next. I wouldn't say Steam Deck killer, but it's
not going to be a Steam Deck killer.
Yeah,
it'll be a competitor though.
Exactly, the competitor, and that's what you want. You want competitors in this market, and they're trying to do that. So June 13th is the release date for 700 buckaroos US dollars, also in pounds. That's a lot of money.
It is.
It does bring you a AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme 8-core processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, which that's pretty damn great for a portable.
It's DDR5 RAM, by the way, which is just ridiculoly fast.
Exactly, ridiculously fast. And then, of course, you can get your own SSD card for storage and all that.
Yeah.
And it does have a 7-inch screen, which is like the Switch OLED.
Yeah.
It can run up to 60 frames in a turbo mode, but obviously that kills the battery. Which the battery life on that thing in turbo mode is terrible. Like an hour.
You can reach 120 frames per second. Doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, it does not mean you should. I'll definitely probably play it in like the middle mode that they said lasts about as long as I have the original launch date Switch, and so my Switch only still goes to like 3 hours.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, but that's okay. Like, it's not as great as the ones that they have now, which can last longer, but for the power that you get with this thing, if you can get it to last 3 hours and play kind of almost anything on it, that's pretty amazing. And obviously it runs Windows 11, so you don't have to do the stuff we have to do with Steam Deck.
Yeah, we don't have to do the protons or trying to pack out the BIOS or any of that fun stuff.
So, as somebody that's more familiar with this stuff than I am, I don't play a lot of stuff on PC. Like, how good is this thing if it actually is as advertised? And do you think it spurs like more of these showing up?
I hope it spurs more of these, but in terms of the specs, these specs are kind of ridiculous for this price point. This is like a $1,500 kind of price point when it comes to like what's in it with like RDNA 3 architecture. We got 120 frames per second of like 1080p coverage on a 7-inch screen. And then we already talked about the 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM. It's just like, this thing is going to be a powerhouse if it's as good as they say it is.
Right.
But the problem comes with its OS. Windows 11 is great as a PC, but we don't know how well it's going to be as a handheld thing. It's similar to how, like, when you think of like all the controversy of Windows 8. Windows 8 was a great operating system for tablets and phones. When you had it as
for
a computer,
PC,
it was terrible.
Yeah.
So a lot of, like, when you look at like people who did like prototype reviews and previews of the Asus ROG Ally, you had a lot of people having issues with the OS being a bit clunky, having issues not being able to have like a trackpad like the Steam Deck has. So like the mouse isn't as intuitive as it is on Steam Deck. Which, by the way, I was not expecting to like the trackpad because I thought it'd just be like a weird gimmick. But it is amazing on Steam Deck. Having to be able to like use it for like a shooter or like moving it for like a mouse, it is very nice. So I understand that completely, that without having a trackpad, some people just don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're not going to be mostly using that unless you're trying to do like a lot of shooters or stuff. which, I mean, the trackpad is also how good you are with trackpads in general, which, I mean, to be fair, you have to be good at a mouse to be good at a mouse too.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Yeah.
the ROG Ally is actually, like, when you look at the price point, it is like half the cost if you tried to build this in a PC kind of a deal. But the problem lies in the fact that PC has a lot more use case than a ROG Ally. ROG
Right.
Ally is going to be solely trying to be focused on the gaming aspect with a little bit of help with other, I guess, things. If you want to put it like on a monitor or a screen or a TV, you can
Yeah.
also connect it with like a dock and a mouse and keyboard and all that. But my biggest issue is going to be how it works with its operating system, how it's going to work with like a new launch of it, especially since Windows 11 is still kind of new as an operating system. So a lot of the intricacies is going to have to also be worked through with Microsoft, which we did see Microsoft was there for the event. So they are working closely in line with Asus on this.
Yeah, you're going to have Xbox, basically Game Pass is going to be native on that thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I am absolutely down with that.
Me too.
We have a process to get it to work.
Yeah, because like I want to play that Cassette Beast. It's like a game that's on PC Game Pass, which is like a Pokemon like, and hey, if I had the ROG Ally, I'd totally be playing that right now because I don't have to play it on my PC. I can just sit on my bed or couch or whatever and just play this like I do my Switch, and I don't have to wait for it to come to console later in the month. I can just play it right now. So like they do have cool things that come to PC Game Pass, and they can take advantage of that more if you have something you can partner with like this thing, and you don't have to come with your own proprietary Xbox, whatever it is, handheld, So like that was my other thing too, is like, do you think Microsoft is being a lot smarter than, say, the rumored Sony Q Lite thing that is going to do remote play?
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much because I don't know a lot about what they're planning, which, I mean, a lot of people don't know what Sony's planning.
Yeah.
Especially if they're trying to focus on remote play. I can imagine that if they are focusing on remote play, it's for helping out the cost so that the device itself is not going to be very powerful.
Right.
But they're also focused on putting a lot of haptic feedback and a lot of things inside this thing is what the rumors suggest. And another fun thing is a lot of these rumors were saying that they were basically being built aligned with the ROG Ally, so that there's also there's probably a lot more things in the backgrounds of other hardware companies that's going to come out, something similar to like the ROG Ally, because we've gotten rumors of other devices being made. So it's just it's only a matter of time till we start getting just a humongous saturation of these handheld PCs. Which I don't mind, because that means the more competition means that the prices will start to lower.
Exactly.
And that will be great.
It's also all about the support as well, right?
Yes. That's my biggest worry of Asus right now. Because the Steam Deck's issue of Valve is no longer a thing because it's now humongously supported by its own community. There are so many additions and additives with the protons and being basically with tutorials and guides on how to set things up that usually wouldn't work on Steam Deck because their community is just ridiculous right now.
Right.
And I don't know if Asus is going to have that help with them. They're not going to have as much people helping them as Steam Deck is right now.
I mean, I think the one difference is obviously Asus is going to try to sell this in a store.
Yes.
So, you'll get the casual person that says, oh, this looks like the Switch, oh, but it's more expensive. Oh, and it's sort of technically like a computer. Oh, and I can play all these games on it, whatever. I'm sure they'll have games that'll be on the front of the box if Xbox is not right there on the front of it either.
Yeah, they should definitely have something on the front of the box with the game.
That's the thing is, will that help sell it and then help other people come into the market and go, okay, well, let's put this at a Best Buy or what have you, Walmart, and say, okay, this is the next thing in gaming. You don't have to buy you can't play. You can technically play some PlayStation games on there. You can play Xbox games. You're not going to play Nintendo games, but you can play some things on there from those consoles, and you could perhaps play them better looking, even or not so much, and depending on what it is. So and you don't have to worry about buying a new computer all the time. It's just going to work on that thing. Which that's my thing with computers is.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is going to work on my laptop. And then, okay, especially if I'm asking for a code and then I get it on PC and it doesn't work. And it's like, you have to do the embarrassing thing of being like,
can you give me
can I trade this out? Like,
code?
can y'all take, I'm not going to be able to review this now. I'll have to just buy it on my own. And that's the thing too. Like, okay, look, let's be honest. Part of being able to review the game, which is actually something that you didn't get to experience in the past when they still gave you the physical copies, and sometimes they would actually make you give the physical copies back.
Yep.
Now it's like they don't have a way for you to give the code back. So
no,
it's like you do the work, you get a free game. You don't have to pay for the game at retail. It helps that way, but not when you get it for PC. It doesn't work on your PC, then you have to go buy it on whatever console you have and waste the money anyway. So that's the thing, is when you have these little handheld systems, things work better on there.
Yes.
And so that does kind of streamline things a bit, which may help people that are kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to get into PC gaming, but you have something that kind of is sort of what they're used to, and they can get PC gaming that way.
Yes.
So like, why do you think Valve doesn't just say, let's put this at a Best Buy or Walmart or whatever?
I'm honestly surprised that they don't do that with Valve. Valve is weird with how they do their hardware though, because they haven't done it to their controllers or the Steam Link, or they do everything through their own basic like distribution facility. And it's kind of wonky because this would be something that most like retailers would absolutely want to have in their stores.
Yeah.
Unless there's apparently some weird thing that they no longer wanted. It's just like, well, Switch sells well. This should sell well too.
Exactly. I wonder if they would sell. I mean, not that they have a problem selling right now. All the hardcore gaming market wants that. Yeah. But, you know, it would be super helpful for them to be able to move this into a direction where it's like, oh, you're going to getting casuals into this, or you're getting people that are not necessarily hardcore gamers, but maybe they want to get into certain games that they can play on PC and take advantage of those sales and all that stuff that you don't get to on other platforms. So yeah, it's definitely interesting if that ever if we have so much competition that it makes Valve have to get out of their shell and go, oh, okay, we got to go mass market with this thing. Or you think maybe they're waiting for like a better version of the Steam Deck?
I don't think they're going to try to make a better version of the Steam Deck just yet. I think they're going to wait it out a bit. Especially with now that there's a whole other competition market resurfacing. I think it'd be wise for them to wait till they see a lot more of what their competition is giving out before they decide to do a refresh or something else with the Steam Deck. Because I absolutely do see them still working on the Steam Deck or working on something like it. Yeah. Because it's sold really well for them, so much that it was sold out for like a year.
Exactly. And then they incredibly were able to like make up all the ones that they had in queue, and we're like, oh, okay, we're empty now. You guys can just buy them like regular.
Yeah, I was a part of that where I was like, my queue was supposed to be like at the end of like December because I was getting it for myself for Christmas, as I knew it was going to come in December. And then like once that happened, I just got it in like September. It's like everything cleared out. Just like super quick, and I was like, dang.
So do you play more games now because you have the Steam Deck? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm on my PC when I do my work, so it's always weird to like, okay, now I have to go from work mindset to game mindset on a different monitor, and it's just like that. It just doesn't always pan out that well.
Yeah.
Especially like if I might still have my Teams thing open and I still get like work emails or stuff I have to not necessarily pay attention to, but it'll still put me in a work mindset of, oh, this is what they need to do, kind of a deal.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I just kind of like don't want to have to be sitting in the work chair.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm still looking at the same screen I was just looking at for the past 8 hours. Like, let me look at something else. Like, you know, so that's why half the time I get home, I just go watch TV, because just to not have to feel like I'm touching something with my hands, you know? So
yes,
that's the thing, is that would be cool for that to become a mass market deal so that we can have more opportunities to have those portable PCs that way. So just to get some quick, get into some quick hitters here. I don't know how much I'm not a big fighting game fan, but I do respect Mortal Kombat because I like their story. They're kind of crazy.
Oh, they are absolutely bonkers, and I love it.
now they're going to do a whole reset on the whole thing. Apparently, it's called MK1. It's coming this year, as foretold in an earnings call like months ago. And then they're going to have freaking Homelander and Peacemaker as DLC characters. I mean, this is nuts. So, I mean, I love the boys and Peacemaker for but that's crazy to think that they're going to be in Mortal Kombat.
I'm not gonna lie to you. When I play Mortal Kombat 1, I'm gonna use Homelander as the training dummy every single time.
All right.
But I am actually, for those who are like up to date on Mortal Kombat 11's, I guess, like DLC story, this kind of makes sense because of the way that it all ended, with basically the timelines being like destroyed or reconfigured and then put together again. Because it kind of requires them to go back.
Right.
Because if they try to move forward from here, it's just like, where do you go from destroying time itself?
Yeah, no.
God Liu Kang destroys time.
Yeah, so I mean, how do you like go back before that happened and just like stop him from destroying it? Like, I don't know.
It's just like, this makes a lot of sense for that. I know a lot of people were hoping it's just going to be a Mortal Kombat 12 because they're not really sure of why it goes from 9, 10, 11, 1.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to be confused, I'm sure.
And it's definitely not going to be like a remake of the first one.
No. I don't think you need that, but I mean, I guess they could do it.
It's not going to be a reboot-ish like 9 was.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they're necessarily going to go, other than they're going to just like try to start like a new entire timeline with, of course, the same characters, but it's probably going to be like something completely different, is my guess. Which I don't mind, because honestly, like, yes, the story itself doesn't make a lot of cohesion, but it is so bonkers, I don't care.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's like, let me just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
If anything, just to sit back and like laugh at how dumb it is.
And honestly, like the amount of money they spent on like the cinematic production is just way too much for what it is. But at the same time, I love how much detail they put into everything.
Yeah, it's funny is they take it seriously while also laughing at themselves while you're sitting there going, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? So, I mean, it's going to cost standard price. There's going to be a collector's version that costs $250. Are you going to go spend all that?
I'm not buying the collector's edition. Honestly, if I don't get it at launch, I'm going to wait till they do like the thing they did with Mortal Kombat 11, where they did the Ultimate Edition that had all the 2 DLC in it with the main game, and it was like $30. And I was like, okay, I got the DLC, I got the game, and I got the characters. That's all I need.
That's probably what I'm going to wind up doing too. It's better just to wait for all the characters they're going to release and all that stuff, which it's crazy. That also adds to it too, right? Like, you really never know who they're going to have as DLC because they could literally have anyone.
Yeah.
And they'll somehow make it make sense too. It's like, this doesn't make sense, but
they have such a weird way of making like their character interactions work way too well for who it is they're talking to. And I know a lot of people probably figured this out initially from like the Mortal Kombat versus DC game, where like they put in such a weird world that worked way too well to have DC superheroes and villains fighting Mortal Kombat characters and having them interact, and it makes sense. So much though that Injustice has characters from Mortal Kombat showing appearances, and they have history from that game that isn't necessarily even connected to Injustice, but it still works because no one asks questions about it.
I'm surprised they're not doing an Injustice 3.
I'm surprised too. I wonder if they have a different direction with Injustice, because I mean, it's technically a live service type game, but at the same time, not a lot of people are playing it as much.
Right.
There still has a hardcore audience though, but
yeah, I'm sure they would get super excited if they did ever release or announce a third one, for sure. Of course, unfortunately, with game announcements, sometimes you get the dreaded game delays, and one of them is a personal one for me. I've been this was going to be my May game, so I actually had requested a code for it like on Monday. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm not hearing anything back. This is an indie. I'm not expecting that. At least I would expect them to say like, okay, sure, here's a form or here's something. And you don't hear anything, right? And then I go on their Twitter. There's like no. It still says May 2023. There's no announcement of a date, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna delay
Not a
this
good
thing.
sound.
Like, and then all of a sudden, this morning, there's the announcement of a delay. Which is funny because they have a game coming out this week as well, the same studio.
Yep.
But like, yeah, I'm a big old school wrestling fan, so like having all those old wrestling legends in this game, and then it being an RPG, is just kind of like, you know what? I kind of always wanted to know what a wrestling RPG would be like. So that's what intrigues me about this game. So I guess I just have to wait longer for it. But another one that it's much bigger in scale.
One people care about more.
Yeah,
sadly.
one people care about is Hollow Knight Silksong. That one has been delayed. They apparently wanted it to come out by now, but it's gotten bigger, and obviously it got the announcement of being in Game Pass last year, and it's a game people love the first Hollow Knight, so they're waiting with so much anticipation for this one.
I mean, it's so funny
Yeah.
because there's so many people when you go to like showcases for even like Nintendo, PlayStation, or Xbox,
Yep.
where they're all like, "Where's Silksong? Where's Silksong?
Every
Where's
time there's a
Silksong?"
direct, every time. This is going to be the moment we're going to see, Indie World, Silksong. It's like, nope. I'm glad they got to announce it on their own terms. But yeah, it is kind of a bummer to see. But at the end of the day, like, you know what? Take your time. With all the broken game releases we've had this year, please just
Seriously,
have it come out and run well and be the game you want it to be. So that's what matters. Are you anticipating Silksong or?
I am in a sense, but I am also not the biggest with Metroidvanias. Oddly
Okay.
enough, like I
I'm
played
kinda
the
the
first
same
one, I
way.
liked it, but it's not like it's gonna be a day one purchase for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way too. There's some Metroidvanias that click with me, but a lot of them don't. That's one that like my co-host Mark is a huge Metroidvania guy, so I'm sure he's probably looking forward to this more than I am. But this is a game that a lot of people were hoping would come out soon, and now we kind of don't really know when it's going to come out. We're just back on the waiting period again.
Yeah.
So at least we heard about him. That's the thing that matters.
And it wasn't in a direct or a showcase of some kind.
Yeah, exactly. Well, while we wait for those, we still got to hear about if Sony's doing their showcase. There is some games coming out this week that are not Tears of the Kingdom, which none of this is gonna matter. Is everybody's playing Tears of the Kingdom anyway? But if you do have PlayStation Plus Extra Premium, you can go try Humanity, or you can get it on PC or whatever. Your PS5, PS4s. We both talked about it. Both looking forward to it. Definitely you should check it out if you have that. I mentioned the aforementioned studio that's making Wrestlequest. They're also releasing this World Championship Boxing Manager 2 that's coming out in a couple of days. It's a 32-bit boxing management sim, which has a cool art style. Thought it was interesting. There's also one of the sites I work for, Last Word on Gaming. They're going to have a review probably in a couple of days. So shout out to throw that out there. Firmament is coming to everything VR. It's a neat little adventure game that's coming out this week as well. And then Lego 2K Drive, which is probably this also was shown about 5 times in the movie theater I was watching Guardians in. Like 2K definitely wants you to know that this thing exists and is coming out here. They have a lot of DLC already announced for it and everything. Where do you sit with the Lego games? Are you
I like Lego games, but I don't necessarily buy them day one, to be honest.
Yeah,
mainly because Lego games go on sale pretty cheap.
Yes, that, and usually they end up coming to some kind of like PS Plus or something.
Yeah.
So I wait for that. This looks neat. I've seen a couple of trailers for it. Like, if you like Legos and building stuff, and then also like driving games, I'm sure this will be fun. I wouldn't expect like Forza levels of driving, but
no.
Yeah,
no one buys a Lego game expecting Forza.
Yeah. But at least you'll get some fun out of it, especially with your kids or whatnot. As well there. Have you seen Guardians 3?
I have, actually.
You have? Okay, great. So we both can talk about it. Okay. So let's not I guess, get into spoilers.
Yeah,
But I guess I loved it. I loved it more than 2 probably. It's probably
yes,
right up there with 1 for me.
I think it's really close to the
Yeah.
quality of 1. Yes.
I love the fact that they didn't tie James Gunn to the whole, oh, you have to make this make sense for the next MCU whatever. It's like, just make an awesome ending to Guardians,
Yep.
and they let him go make that. You told the one story that we've never really gotten unless you read the comics. It's sad at times, it's hilarious. I probably still like some of the music more from 1 than this one, but it still has some really killer tracks.
Yep.
And it has everything you want in a Guardians movie. And yeah, I just love the crap out of it. So
yeah, I really love the movie too. It definitely felt like the only big directorial thing they told James Gunn to do is they needed Adam Warlock in the movie, and so he did that. And that was about it.
And they made him funny, which so
they changed his personality a bit because he's supposed to be like a baby-ish version of Adam Warlock.
Which that's how you make that work, right? Just like Baby Groot, you don't have to make him all serious and whatever. He's still powerful. He's still
which I mean, I think is one of the reasons why James Gunn chose Will Poulter, because he has one of those faces.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking of just like, this guy does not have the face of what I'd assume is Adam Warlock.
Right.
But then you watch this, you're like, okay, yeah, I see where he's coming from now.
Definitely.
But it works really well. Like, you don't get a lot of stuff with Adam Warlock in the movie, and it shows. But at the same time, the moments you do get of him is just actually funny.
Yeah, because a lot of times he just kind of comes out of nowhere, and you're like, "What the
plot is going on?" Adam Warlock is in the plot now, and now he's gone.
He's gone again. All right, and then the little pet that he has is one of those
that's great,
awkwardly alien cute things as well.
Yes.
I could definitely see that being somebody's plushie that they want now for their bed or whatever.
That's the merchandise.
Yeah, I'm almost sometimes like, God, if I would have seen that with my daughter, she would have told me, I want that now. Now I gotta go find some plushie of this.
At least the baby rocket ones. No.
Yeah, definitely. I like the story they did with everybody to kind of get into that conclusion that if you pay attention to any of the stuff that's been announced, you know that some of the characters are not coming back, obviously, or at least the actors that play those characters. It doesn't mean that they won't come back for cameo roles or whatever for other things, but I don't think we could have really asked for anything better than what we got.
No, I feel like most people are probably going to call this the best movie of Phase 5 or whatever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or the best movie since Endgame keeps recurring too. So
yeah, even though this one actually could carry that weight a little bit more than some of the other ones that they've been saying.
The only one I'd argue is probably No Way Home.
Yeah.
But that's just because I am a massive Spider-Man fan and biased.
Yeah, I mean, but all the Spider-Man ones have been awesome. So and then
yes.
You throw in the I'm sure Into the Spider-Verse is going to be amazing as well.
Yeah.
So,
we could actually see more of Miguel O'Hara. He's like a Spider-Man no one cares about. I care about him though.
I do too. They should care more about him. So, yeah, I don't like using that whole term of Marvel's back or whatever. It really is.
It's
been
a while, the same Marvel thing for a while. People just don't remember that they are still duds in Phase 1 and Phase 2 too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they do these shows now because they definitely have to figure out how to make these connect to the plot more. And I don't know if you necessarily have to make a must watch, but make them kind of important. It's interesting that they had a report come out that Disney is really considering doing less with Disney Plus now, and even possibly removing crap off of it, which I hate when you hear that term.
Streaming costs us too much money. but
Exactly.
we like it.
And we for some reason we decided that we wanted to buy most of Hulu, so then we got to deal with that too. It's like
yeah,
y'all got too much stuff going on, is what it is. So
this is like the classic thing of a company feels that the market's going this way and then realizes that it was only going that way for a certain period of time.
yeah, it's like how quickly they pivoted to like the whole, and maybe we shouldn't like announce when it's going to go to like Disney Plus or Paramount before it's even done in the theaters yet, because guess what? People are going to stop going to the theater.
You
like
underestimate the patience of some people.
Yeah, well, not just that. It's like save money, right?
Yes.
Like why go spend? Look, I went and saw it, in which to me I feel like is a waste. I saw the Mario Bros. Movie. I saw it in 40x, which that was amazing. I'd never seen something in 40x before, and it was awesome seeing it in that. And then they didn't have tickets to the Guardians at the time slot that we needed to go for the 40x. There's only one theater in all of Miami that does it. So there's one by me that has like SDX, which is literally just like the sound goes around or whatever. And you don't really hear the whole big deal that they make you pay the money for. So I'm like, man, I could have just saved me a bunch of money and just saw this in a regular ass theater, So like the people that pay for the 3D and all that stuff, you spend so much money taking people to those things.
I'm the cheapskate who buys the matinee showings for like $5.
We have that too. It's like Tuesdays for $5.
Yeah.
Go then, So that's the smart thing to do. But then also when you have the ability to beat it for free, or the VOD for like $4, why not? You know, so we'll see how much it affects Mario if they ever get to make it to the 1.4 billions or whatever that they're making there. But yeah, man, Scott, thank you so much for being on the episode today.
My pleasure.
It was awesome having you. Go promote yourself. I don't know what reviews or anything you're doing upcoming here.
Alrighty. So I think my most recent review was probably Mugen Souls. It's a good game, but not recommended unless you look into it.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart. I do most of my reviews on the Outer Haven. I'm on Twitter at @SitScott. And you'll also see me a lot of the times on our YouTube channel on the Outer Haven as I help out with doing some of the gameplay as well as the reactions and explanations of JRPGs, because I like JRPGs. So sue me.
Yeah, y'all do those trailer reactions, you and Matt. So, which, yeah, you should definitely go check out the Outer Haven YouTube channel. They do some tremendous stuff over there. Again, I'm like really waiting for this time to come where I can start writing again more frequently. The problem is you get that imposter syndrome too when you don't write constantly. So it's like, I'm done playing the game. Let me go. And then I sit at the computer and I'm just like,
sometimes
let me go do something else.
Again.
Exactly. I'm just like, so, we will get to that when it happens. We'll be here, of course, next week for more video games to the max. I'm not sure. Hopefully we can keep it on this Monday schedule, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully everybody had a good Mother's Day, and we'll see y'all here later. Remember to like, subscribe, all that. That was the network. Go check out the Outer Haven, and we'll see you later, everybody.
See ya.